One more thing I want to mention, and I know I just made several videos about this machine and reasons why you should get it. Uh, I definitely have mixed feelings about it, but I just have to be honest with myself and with the majority of people. So a lot of people say, well, everything, you buy one of these machines and everything's soldered to the board, meaning you can't upgrade anything. So you can't upgrade your processor, you can't upgrade your RAM, you can't upgrade your storage, Wi-Fi card, things that in laptops of past, and in full blown desktops, yeah, you can swap out and then you can upgrade them, or if a component goes bad, you're able to swap it, and that way it doesn't brick the entire board. So I have to look at it from two standpoints. So the first one is, yeah, it sucks that if one of those components fails, the machine itself might die. The Wi-Fi card, I don't know exactly how that's integrated into this laptop. In fact, because that might be something separate. So if that fails, then you can get a dongle, which you don't want to do, and it still hampers the overall experience with the device, but it might not kill it. Now, if we're talking explicitly of the Wi-Fi card, I'd say there are a lot of machines, Windows 2, that have the Wi-Fi card soldered to the motherboard in 2022. This ThinkPad is a little older. In fact, I'm touching it. This one over here. It's a little older, so the Wi-Fi card is slotted, meaning I can take it out and put a new one in, and that's a good thing. I mean, have I had an issue with the Wi-Fi card? No. If I want to upgrade it, I think that's a Wi-Fi 5, so an AC wireless card. I believe that's what's in there. So if I wanted to upgrade it to a Wi-Fi 6 Wi-Fi card, I could do it. Am I going to do it? Probably not. And that's the truth. But yes, I do understand that if it got damaged, then I could easily replace it. And just to give you an example, this ThinkPad over here, which is out of focus, is a 6th generation ThinkPad. And I actually did purchase the 7th generation ThinkPad a few months after the 6th. I mean, we were in 2021, so they both have been out for a little bit. And for $600, I was able to pick up both of them. Now, when I got that 7th generation one in the mail, I think it was a little thinner. The typing experience was a little different. But the first thing I attempted to do, pull it out the box, install whatever Windows updates I needed to install. And it was having a hard time finding the Wi-Fi network here. So I said, well, that's weird. I checked all my other devices and they all were able to communicate with my router. And I said, well, let me see if there's something wrong with the wireless card. So I popped it open, and then one of the cables that should have been attached to the Wi-Fi card was just dangling in there. So I said, oh, well, that's interesting. So I examined the Wi-Fi card, which for the 7th generation is soldered to the board. And I noticed that one of the little terminals that should just be like a little perfect circle was bent. And I said, well, that's weird. And long story short, I was able to finagle the little terminals that way it was formed back into a circle, and I was able to put the cable into it, and it was secure. There wasn't any issues. I had it for another couple of days, but at the end of that 2 or so day period, in fact it might have been the same day, I didn't feel comfortable keeping that machine because, one, I did buy it used, so I don't really remember what type of warranty. There might have still been an active warranty on it, but I bought it used. And 2, I couldn't swap the Wi-Fi card out myself. So if by some chance, let's say that little terminal that I was able to reform, it was just a piece of metal, if that broke, I'd have to either use a dongle all the time if I wanted Wi-Fi access, or plug in a USB-C to Ethernet port if I happen to be near something that I could actually plug that into. So the fear is real, and it wasn't fear like life-ending fear, but the possibility of there being a problem with a component that you aren't able to replace yourself. I completely get it. So that's the reason that I returned that machine. But I will say it is not a reason that I would not buy a more modern laptop, because that's just the direction that everything's going. All these laptops want to be thinner. So in order to do that, you got to solder things to the board. You got to be able to make it so that way you're not wasting space, whatever direction, space, X, Y, Z. You're trying to make things as small and as integrated as possible. So if the wireless card went out on this, yeah, I'd be bummed out about it. And yeah, I'd probably end up selling the laptop. I don't know how much Apple would charge to pay it. And again, I'm not even sure if the wireless card is separate from their integrated everything. So I'd have to take it apart and see. But I think that it is separate. But again, it could be wrong. But yeah, even talking about a Windows laptop or like the one that I had, the 7th generation X1 Carbon, yeah, if that it looked damaged. Was it permanent damage? I don't know, but I did not feel comfortable keeping it. So I completely understand that is a rational concern. Now, going back to this machine, the RAM, the storage, the processor, the GPU, all those things are integrated, and yeah, you can't replace it. If one of those things craps out, the machine essentially is toast. And yeah, you could sell it. You could send it to Apple to see how much they would charge you, which I'm sure if they needed to repair it, they'd probably just try to sell you a refurbished one, or just say, hey, it's whatever the cost is to repair it is going to be almost the cost of buying a brand new machine. So yeah, you're probably going to just buy a brand new machine. But that is not an Apple specific thing. So even though this machine over here is a 6th generation, I believe it came out 2018, the RAM is soldered to the board, so I couldn't swap that out. The processor, there's an 8th generation i5, what, an 83 something in there. That's soldered to the board. Couldn't swap that out. The SSD is slotted, so I am able to replace that if I need to. So that is nice. And I don't know if these vendors, well, they probably have the information, which components are most likely to fail, I guess with the mean time to failure, whatever it is. And maybe the SSD is that thing. So it is nice that you can swap that out. 1, if it's problematic. But 2, if you decide that you actually just want to upgrade and get more storage, it's nice to be able to do it. But I definitely ask for most people out there, whether it's the RAM, the processor, or their storage, how often are you doing that? What's the likelihood that over the course of the lifespan of the laptop, however long you actually plan on keeping it, how likely are you actually to do that? And from a person who has done it on laptops and desktops, yeah, you might do it once, and then it's like, all right, well, yeah, I went from 8 to 16, or I have a ThinkPad T14 Gen 2 that does have a slotted RAM, or a SODIMM slot. So I did upgrade that, and I did put there was an 8 gig DIMM in there, and I put a 16 gig DIMM in there. So yeah, I have done it, but yeah, that was it. So the sad reality of it is that yeah, there's 2 things. Failure of components is an issue, and it is nice to be able to swap those out. But then there's also the future upgrade mindset of, well, I might get 8 gigs now, but in the future, am I going to need 16? I might have an i5 now, or in this case, an M1 or an M2. Am I just going to want, whatever the next version of that is? If the motherboard would even be compatible with swapping processors, if they if the swap was allowed. In all the years that I've really been interested in computers, for laptops, I'll say, and even actually for me, for desktops too, but really for laptops, I've only upgraded a processor once. That was about 6 years ago. Yeah, I had a 1st generation Intel Core i5, whatever it was, and I put a 7th generation, a 1st generation i7 in there. So I went from an i5 to an i7, and that was it, and I haven't done it since. And I haven't had any component issues where I felt like, oh man, I really wish I could upgrade the CPU in this machine. Mainly because sometimes it's just not even cost effective. So spending $300 something to upgrade your CPU on a laptop that is a couple years old probably just isn't even worth it at that point. So not having the option to do it for me isn't that big of a deal. So yeah, the components haven't failed for me at least. And yeah, even if I wanted to upgrade, the cost to upgrade in a laptop that's a couple years old probably just wouldn't be worth it. Now, it's like that for all components. In fact, yeah, like I said, that T14 Gen 2 that I have does have a slot for some RAM. Some of it's soldered to the board, and some of it you can't. There's a slot that you can put a new piece, a different DIMM in there. But my issue with the fact that you can't change these things later on isn't necessarily the fact that you can't change it, but it's the cost that you have to pay to upgrade it when you are initially purchasing the machine. So for Apple, to go from 8 to 16 gigs of RAM, it's $200. Like that's insane. That's too much. Now I think I've seen similar pricing on other vendors' websites, so I think they just recognize, oh, if Apple can do it, we can do it too. Yeah, I do feel like that is too much. And if those prices were lower, then I'd say, yeah, just go ahead and get the 16 now and just don't worry about it. And I personally I think I'm pretty price conscious. I try not to just, throw money away left and right. But yeah, if you think the machine that you're about to buy for whatever price is going to be something that you want to have for a while, yeah, pay the extra money. It sucks that you can't do it later. Are you the type of person that would want to do it later anyway? How much would it cost if you were able to do it later? So there are a bunch of things that you probably think about. But yeah, my issue isn't, I still don't like that everything's soldered, but I understand why it is. My issue truly is just the price to upgrade. It's like, crap, man, $200 just to get some more RAM. Like, if it were $200 for like a 16 gig DIMM, like pair, like, hey, I have 16 gigs and now I have this leftover 8 gig DIMM that I need, I could sell or do whatever. Then yeah, that's still, I think, too much. But it's not. It's $200 to upgrade from 8 to 16, not $200 for an additional 16. Same thing when it comes to the SSDs, at least for Apple. I'm not sure about the other ones. To go from 256 to 512, it's $200. So it's not $200 for an additional 512 gigs of storage. It's $200 for an additional 256 gigs of storage. So you don't have that additional old SSD that you would pull out of your machine and then maybe choose to sell or, get some of that money back. So my issue is the pricing, not necessarily the fact that I can't do it myself later. Do I like being able to do it myself later? Absolutely. But how often have I actually done it? I don't know. Now, what I will say, and this kind of isn't the same thing, but it's all relevant, is that with used laptops, which is essentially all that I buy because you can save a decent amount of money, one thing that I do like about slotted machines, so machines that allow you to actually replace some of the components, is that people selling them sometimes will pull their SSD out and sell it without the SSD in it. And that will lower the price of the device because they know, hey, all the components aren't here. You have to supply your own. Sometimes you'll have extra ones lying around. Like right now, I do have an extra M.2 NVMe SSD lying around. So if I needed to buy another machine, and the machines that we're looking at just happen to not come with SSDs, boom, I'm now able to use something I already own and hopefully save a little bit of money on something that I'm about to buy. And when everything's soldered, you just don't get that option. It's just, well, whatever the market rate is for used, whatever it is that you're trying to buy, that's what you're probably going to see. And of course, that price fluctuates. But I will say, yeah, it is nice when I'm like, oh, I can see that machine, that Windows machine, doesn't have an SSD. So then they'll say, yeah, no storage and then no operating system. So that's another thing that will bring the price down. But with most of these machines, when they were initially purchased, they had both of those. So there's a digital license associated with that machine. So therefore, I don't have to go out and buy a Windows license. But I if I needed to buy the SSD, which again, I already have an extra one. But even if I didn't, $50, like right now at Best Buy, I went there. It was either 50 or 60, but it was a 512 Western Digital Black PCIe Gen 4 SSD. That for $50, that's $50 for 512 gigabytes, not an additional $200 to upgrade from 256 to 512. So the pricing at that point is like, I would like to be able to do that myself to save some money. But that's just the direction, the soldering, everything is the direction everything is going. So it sucks. It really does. I feel for those people. And Probably would not buy a Windows laptop where everything was soldered. But, with these things, these Macs, you just don't have a choice. So I think I'm able to accept that. But yeah, all that to say, when we're looking at these components or looking at these machines, yeah, things aren't soldered or things are soldered. So you can't change things yourselves. You're potentially worried about one of three things. Are these components going to fail? And if they fail, am I able to use the machine? Usually not. If you're not worried about these things failing, it's, well, am I going to be able, would I want to upgrade these components later on? And of course, if everything's soldered, then no, you won't. But then it's, all right, well, if I'm looking at buying this thing brand new, how much more am I going to have to pay in order to upgrade the machine right here, because I am not able to change things later in the future? So yeah, they're all things to think about. But I think it's taken me a long time to get here, but it's just like, well, that's just the way computing is moving. So if you want all of that, all of those choices, all of those ports, all of those slots, get a desktop. Don't get a Mac, because you'll get some ports, but you can't change anything. But yeah, if you want to be able to swap everything, if you know that you're going to upgrade the internal components later on, get a Windows desktop. Or if you want to run Linux, run that. But yeah, get a PC that you have the option to make those changes. So should you not buy this machine because you can't make any real changes to it after you purchased it? No. You'll be fine. So I think I'm going to close it on that one. I didn't take any notes on this one like I did my last two, and I feel like I didn't ramble as much as in those other ones. But yeah, everything's soldered. You can't change anything. But as I talked about pricing before, find a used one if you're okay buying used products, or if you want to buy a brand new, look at places that aren't Apple, and you're able to find things for $150, anywhere from $100 to I want to say $200 off brand new. I know definitely $150 off, but yeah, consider looking other options. But yeah, things are soldered. That's the way computing is going, and as a result of everything being soldered, the overall performance is what it is. So yeah, sorry that you can't change anything, but that's just the way things are going to be for a lot of these, or for these Apple products.